Hi, hello. Welcome to my cozy corner. This is one of my favorite spots in my room because it's where I read books all day long if I can. Very different than the view that we're used to. It's usually what you see behind me when I'm doing my makeup. And I'm not gonna lie, I just did not want to film a makeup video today. But I need to film if I want to stay up with my 4 videos a month. So I need to stay on top of that. And I thought, well, I want to talk about books more, so why don't I just talk about books? Next time I might like gussy myself up a little bit more instead of looking like this. I did try to make my bun look good, so you can at least give me that. Like it's a pretty good bun, you know? So I'll take that. And I want to talk about some of my favorite books. These are not all of them, but these are what I would consider 5-star reads, and I want to talk to you about them in no specific order. Just pulling them as I find them from the stack. But I did also write down a bunch that I don't have. And we'll open my first wrapped book that I'll have to read, hopefully before the month is over. It's still January. And boy, it's been a long month so far. But before I dive into these reads, I thought I would give you some Storygraph stats of my reading. So this all came from the Storygraph app. I don't use Goodreads. I used Goodreads for years and years and years and years. I probably used Goodreads for a good 10 years. I think it's been around for longer than that, and I used it for that long. And then Storygraph came along, and I liked that it's not Amazon. It has way better stats, and it has audiobooks as an option. It also has a DNF function, so I can actually count how many books I don't finish. And yeah, it just keeps better track of what you're reading in the format you're reading them in. And if you're not on Storygraph, would recommend. It's really easy to switch all of your data over from Goodreads to Storygraph, so you don't have to start over. It has everything. And yeah, I think it's just a much better platform. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And some of my stats are, according to Storygraph, I mainly read fiction. Yes. Fiction books that are emotional, dark, and mysterious. I would say that tracks. I read a lot of dark movies with dark themes and dark fantasy. I would say dark romance sometimes. I read a lot of mysteries. Mystery is probably my favorite genre. I am in a mystery book club, so I don't doubt that it thinks that I like to read books that are mysterious. Because I'm definitely reading a lot of mystery books. And it says that I read medium-paced books mostly. And they average to be 300 to 500 pages long. Huh. Cool. Storygraph has that I have read 865 books since I moved over all my stuff. So it's since about, I think, 2011, 2012, I think was the earliest. I was scrolling for a while, looking for some of my favorite reads, and I wanted to see how far back it went. I'm pretty sure it went to at least 2011, maybe 2012. And I have 532 titles on my TBR list in Storygraph. So again, you can add books to Storygraph like you can on Goodreads and mark things as like want to read. TBR, you can do even more tags and categories. I just don't. I just have it on TBR. I've given 163 books 5 stars. I was scrolling and looking at some of them. There's some that I do not remember, and it could be worth revisiting to see if they are still 5-star reads. And there were some on there that I was like, huh, okay. And I'm going to give you one of those in a little bit, because I saw that on there and I said, wow, I really gave that 5 stars. So, and on my Libby TBR, so on my Libby is where I'm getting my library books, and I would say that I read almost exclusively library books. I don't buy books very often. I go on sprees sometimes where I am adding books to my collection, but I'm not a big book buyer. I'm not that person. If I loved a book, I have to have a trophy. On few occasions, I will buy a book that I have already read, but for the most part, I don't reread books. A good handful of these I have, and that's also like when I know I love a book, it's when I reread it. So yeah, not a big book buyer, a big Libby and library user. I love checking books out from the library. And on my Libby TBR, I have 300 books. And I was scrolling through those and kind of removing books that I know I don't want to read, or books I have read that just happen to still be on that TBR in that app. So I think I've come up with a challenge for myself of reading a certain amount of books on my like backlog TBR. So going from like the oldest added, and kind of reading some of those. I'm gonna think about it and put it together. So those were some Storygraph stats and a little more insight into who I am. So yeah, I want to tell you about some of my favorite books. Again, in no particular order. I do have my giant cup of tea with me. I'm drinking Trader Joe's chamomile, some chamomile tea, which is my favorite chamomile. And then I have my ashwagandha and lemon balm stress relief tea that I use for my anxiety. So it's my anxiety tea in my Charmed, big ass Charmed mug. Anybody grow up watching Charmed? I loved that show when I was growing up. I used to watch it like all the seasons and everything, and I'll catch it on TNT when I'm in hotels sometimes. It's not that they haven't aged well, but like you watch them now and you're like, damn, these are cheesy. These are silly almost, right? But I still love them, and if they're on TNT when I'm in a hotel, I'm gonna watch them. And it's always amazing what I remember too. Okay, 5-star reads, books that I love, 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 love. From the top here, Kafka on the Shore. This is by Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami is one of my favorite authors. He's a Japanese author. All of his works are translated to English from what we read. And I would say that I almost make a habit of buying the books that are translated by the same guy. It's like Philip Gabriel. And it's a pretty little insert there. And I've read all of the Murakami books that I have read have been translated by Peter Gabriel. That's the Sting and the Police, right? No, that's who took over from Sting in Sting and the Police. Philip Gabriel. Anyway, this is a book. Murakami writes a lot of like magical realism, surrealism, where you're in a normal world and magical things happen, strange things happen, and they're usually not explained. It's just the magical world that you live in. And this follows a teenage boy named Kafka and another man, Nakata, who they have it here as an aging simpleton. And they're like drawn together, they're like magnetized to each other, and a lot of weird things happen. Cats talk, fish fall from the sky, spirits slip out of their body and make love or commit murder in what is truly a remarkable journey in this world of Kafka on the Shore. It sounds really weird to explain it, but it's a very driving story. You're following this kid who's trying to find his father, basically, and just everything, all of the twists and turns that he goes through and the people that he meets all, boil down to the culminating experience that he has. It is very, very interesting. All of Murakami's books are very dense. Like even like the print is very small. I don't know if you could tell. The print is very small, and a lot of things happen. A lot of things cross over. People are connected in ways that they don't know, and there's like it's so cool. There's actually a person that he meets in here. Kafka meets, and it's in a museum with a library. And I love the representation of a library and a librarian in this book. I am a librarian, so can't say enough things about it. If you've want to read any Murakami, this is a good one to start with, but there are some other ones. His short stories, Sputnik Sweetheart is really, really good. That would be a good one to start with. I think that's a better introduction to Murakami. And then Kafka on the Shore, and then Wind Up Bird Chronicle is wild, and IQ 84 is massive and weird, but so good. Murakami, 10 out of 10. The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell. This is a great book. It talks about all things cultish and how language itself is kind of cultish. Think of multi-level marketing scheme, CrossFit, yoga gurus and things like that, and how they use language to attract people and convince people that what they're doing is right, is wrong, to do murder, right? Manson family, things like that. So it's really, really good. It's one of my few nonfiction books that I have that is like 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. Yeah, 5 star. 5 star read. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I have her new book, Magical Overthinking, or Magical Overthinkers. I have not read it yet, but I'm pretty sure I would like it. And I'm like pretty sure she wrote Word Slut. Like, yeah, Word Slut, A Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language, which I read a long, long time ago, and I feel like I need to reread it. But Amanda Montell, great author, very compelling writer, and that's a great book. White Oleander. I would put Paint It Black in here too. It's also by Janet Fitch. But White Oleander is a book that I have read at least 5 times as a teenager and as an adult. Every time, it's just so good. It's a heartbreaking story about a girl, what's her name? Astrid, and her mom, Ingrid, and kind of just traveling around California, around Los Angeles foster homes, and just the life that that Astrid leads, and the world of Los Angeles. I love Los Angeles. I lived in LA for like 10 years. Paint It Black is even more like immersed in LA culture in like the 80s and 90s. I loved it so much. And yeah, just beautiful story, very evocative writing, if you will. And it says emotionally gripping, eerily seductive. Would I agree with that? And yeah, when was the story written? It's like the 90s? 1999. Heck yeah. So, if you've not read this book, I would absolutely recommend it. It's a great read. Again, you just follow this, like, girl who's just been dealt a bad hand. Her mom's a psycho, and just all the consequences of her mom's actions come down on Astrid, and the, foster home situation. It's such a good book. I should reread that soon. That's a reread. My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. Oh boy, I could not put this book down. I read it, not in a day, but I read it over a vacation, and I actually remember being on the plane and having quite literally like this much left. And a person, like, a few rows down from me saw me reading it, and she was like, oh my gosh, I hope you love that. I said, it's so good. And she goes, good. And I finished the book, and we were deplaning, and I looked at her, and I said, wow, 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 wow. And we talked about it for like 10 minutes as we were like deplaning and getting out of the airport and everything. But it's about a serial killer whose wife is also a serial killer. And they like serial kill together, but then it like becomes a competition, and oh, it's a wild ride. And again, the blurb is Dexter meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith in this wildly compulsive debut thriller about a couple whose 15-year marriage has finally gotten too interesting. Very, very cool. I loved this book. Oh my god. Here's a picture of my husband and a boy that we used to babysit. This is probably a This is probably a 18-year-old picture. He's just hanging upside down. Anthony had a full head of hair. Wow. That was just in this book. Huh. That's my friend. Anyway, I've not really liked any of her books since. This was her debut novel, and I've read most of her other books. I have another one right there. It's called For Your Own Good. I have read He Started It. And there's another one in there, and they're good, but nothing hits as hard as this one did. And oh my goodness, this was such a good book. I couldn't put it down. It was, I remember I was going to Salt Lake City and I was reading it. I remember sitting in the Airbnb that we had gotten, waiting for my husband to come back, and I'm just reading this book. And he came home, or came to the Airbnb, and I was bummed because I was like, I really just want to read this book. So. Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is a beautiful book, and actually Conversations with Friends is also really good. And what I really like about Sally Rooney books, this is going to sound bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. Her books are boring. It's like, I can't even tell you what this book is about. Yes, I can. About two friends, unrequited love, but it's just like such normal things that these people go through, which is not, like, they're very complicated people, but it's presented in such a way that it's just these two people living their lives. And I love that. I love that there's not a, like, flash bang, bam, you know, huge climax. It's just like, they come together, they finally figure it out, and it's just like, they made it, you know? But I just really like her writing. Her writing is very simple and almost plain, but every story is so character driven, and it's all about the characters. Conversations with a Friend, with Friends? Conversations with Friends. Hello Beautiful World. What was the other one? I think it was Hello Beautiful World. There was one more in there, and it's like I read them and they stick with me, but I also have a hard time explaining what they're about, because it's like, I don't know, man. They were just kind of living, and we got to watch them live, and I love that. So if that's your vibe and you haven't read it, I know they made a TV show about it, and I wanted to watch it, and I wanted to love it, and I think I started to watch it, and I just was like, I already know this, it's fine. So I never finished it. That's how I was with Daisy Jones and the Six. Ooh, I should have pulled that one. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Basically anything by Taylor Jenkins Reid is a 10 out of 10 for me, but Daisy Jones and the Six is probably my favorite. And I didn't watch the TV show that they made about it. The soundtrack is amazing. I loved hearing the soundtrack, but the TV show, I know that they moved away from the story itself. They cut characters out and they changed storylines, and I was like, oh no, I don't want that. So maybe I could probably watch it now, more removed from reading the book, and I'd probably enjoy it. But that was just a great story, told in like an interview format. If you haven't read Daisy Jones and the Six, you have to. It is so good. It's loosely based on like Fleetwood Mac. Just burning through these. I don't want this to take forever, but now is the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson. This is a great book. Actually, all of the Kevin Wilson books that I've read, Now is the Time to Panic, Nothing to See Here, and Run for the Hills. That was my first read of 2026, was Run for the Hills. Every book is so good. They're all kind of weird, slice of life sort of things. This one was about a girl and her friend in the 80s, in the 90s, that kind of started a almost conspiracy theory thing with art, and they never admitted to doing it, but it turned into this like satanic panic sort of thing, and they never fessed up, and then decades go by, 20 years later, and it says she gets a call that threatens to upend her carefully built life. A journalist is writing about the Coalfield Panic of 1996. And so she kind of goes back home to figure out what do they know, if they know anything, and reconnects with the guy that was kind of helping her, kind of like a lost love. And this kind of like really weird, zany story. And it was so good. Couldn't put it down. Very, very interesting read. And I loved it. I loved it a lot. Nothing to See Here is about children who spontaneously combust. Basically, this girl accepts a position. She was like down on her luck. She had like $4 to her name, and she was hired as this nanny for this well-to-do politician family, political family. And they had a big old secret, and their secret was that their kids spontaneously combusted, and they were like fine. They just would erupt in flames, and she just kind of had to deal with it. And, you know, the bonds that she built with the kids and relationships that she created, really weird, really interesting. Loved it. I loved it so much. And then Run for the Hills was about a found family, almost, about this man who had multiple families, and their kids found each other. So one guy found a girl, and he goes, I'm your half-brother, and there's more of us. And they embark on a road trip across the country, finding their other half-siblings and finding their father, to like confront him and being like, why are there so many of us? Like, he had 4 or 5 altogether different families. Like, he lived 5 different lives. He had different names, different professions, different interests. He was 5 different dads to 5 different kids. It was very interesting. Kind of pulled at my heartstrings a little bit. But again, just one of those like really weird, interesting stories. Kevin Wilson, he's a good writer. Would recommend. I know I talked about this in my last one, Project Hail Mary. I won't talk too much about it, except for that it's the best book ever. I love it so much. This is an amazing, 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 amazing book. You need to read it before the movie comes out. You need to see it before the movie. You can't watch the movie and then read the book. You need to read the book, then watch the movie. Okay? Promise me. Promise me that you will do that. That's all I'll say about it. Besides, that's amazing. I'm going to end on my favorite book, but Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is a beautiful book. I usually say about this book, this is a book I wish I could read again for the first time. I loved it. It's so good. It's beautiful. Girl basically makes a deal with the devil and can live forever, but nobody ever remembers her until she meets somebody who remembers her. And the kind of love story between her and the devil and her and this man that can see her. And it's just really, really good. This is V.E. Schwab, who has written a lot of books. What other books have I read about? Oh, I got a signed copy of this one. Vicious, Vengeful, A Darker Shade of Magic, Gathering of Lights, and Conjuring of Shadows, or Conjuring of Light. Those 3 are a series. Really, really good. But yeah, this is just a beautiful book. I actually really want to reread this. I feel like it would be a really good reread, especially because it's been a couple of years. And I think that, I always say I wish I could read it again for the first time. It's the closest I'll get to it, because I haven't read it in a long time. So there's going to be a lot of things I don't remember, so maybe it'll be like it being the first time. And I could see it becoming like my all-time favorite book, The Night Circus, which again, I know I talked about in my last video about books. But this is my all-time favorite book. This is also a signed copy. It says, For Jillian, it's signed by Erin Morgenstern. This is a beautiful book. I love this book so much. I just finished reading it. It was my, I don't even know what reread, 5th, 6th, 7th reread. I learn something about this book every time. I remember I finished reading it quite literally on Saturday, and I was just like, wow. How can this book still affect me even though I've read it so many times? How do I close this book and just be like, wow, what did I just read? That was amazing. That was an amazing book. That was an amazing story. It's so magical and enchanting, and it's so good. I was just talking to my friend about it, and it's like, I hope they never make a movie about it, and if they do, I'll never see it. I don't want to see anybody's interpretation of this. What I have that lives in my head and I revisit every time I reread is exactly what I want to see. I don't want to listen to the audiobook because I don't want to hear a narrator, a reader, emphasizing a word that I don't emphasize, or lean into a character in a way that I don't think they need to be leaned into. I don't want anything to spoil this perfect book. So if that does not convince you to read this book, I don't know what will do it. But it's a beautiful, amazing, perfect book. I think that was all of them. I wrote up some other ones down, but I think I'll save those for later. But I do want to share an LOL 5-star read that I found. These are all the physical books that I have. I have other books that I've read that are 5-star reads that are not, and I will save those for later. But as I was scrolling through my 5-star reads to see what else was on there, A Sure Thing by Nicole Snooki Polizzi, I gave 5 stars to. I literally wrote right here, it says, LOL, A Sure Thing by Snooki. I gave that 5 stars. I don't know why. I can't imagine it actually being good because I do not remember it. But I gave it 5 stars. So there's that. I don't know what I was thinking when I read that in like 2016 or something. But let me grab a book to unwrap, and then that will be my next read for the month. All right. I pulled this book randomly from my stack. This is the books that I wrapped earlier this year, and I said there's 12 of them, 1 book a month, and this is it. We're gonna open it together right now. I hope it's what I want to read. They're all books I want to read. Oh, it's a reread. I think this might be the only reread I picked, but it is Beautiful Ruins by Jess Walters. Jess Walter, excuse me. This is a great book. I actually just recommended this book not too long ago to one of my best friends, and I was like, I think you'd like this book. It is about it's a kind of a back and forth about like old Hollywood and an actress, I think. Yeah, movie sets, in the back lots, both in old Hollywood and contemporary Hollywood. A deeply human roller coaster of a novel. Woo! I can't wait. Man, this is going to be the year of rereads, I'm going to tell you that. As many books as I have on my TBR, like I want to read Addie LaRue. I just finished The Night Circus. I'm going to reread this. What other books am I going to reread this year? Probably a lot. But, yeah, this will be my next read. I can't wait to update you on it. And I think I've thought about this a little bit. I think I'm going to try to do a makeup look inspired by either the book or a character or the cover. One of those reasons. So, to come will be a look on this. Hopefully I'm going to try to do it before the end of the month, so I can try to keep them contained. But cut me some slack if I don't. You know, I'm human. I'm trying so hard. So those were my favorite reads of all time. I read these books, some of these books years and years and years ago, and they just stuck with me. Some of them I reread, and I reread often. And I hope you read one of them and you love it as much as I do. And if you do, let me know. Let me know, say, hey, I picked this up because of you, and I read it, and I love it. If you don't love it, that's okay too. You know, books are subjective. You get what you need out of them, but I hope you love them as much as I do. All right. I think that's all I've got. I will let you go, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.